Stewart, and I'm here today with Marius and we are talking about my book, Scars Like Wings, which comes out October 1st. And I'm so excited because Marius was the inspiration for my book, and I just thought it would be cool for him to be able to tell you guys about his experience and how it's similar to Ava's experience in Scars Like Wings, because his story is really inspirational and really cool. And yeah, so we'll just start off with talking with Marius. So this is Marius.
Hi.
So he came over from Romania to get treatment after a burn injury, and he lived with one of my friend's families, and that's when I first met him. And to be honest, when I first met Marius, I had heard about him. I had heard that his parents had died in the fire and that he had these severe burns, and it was kind of horrific, his story. And so when I met him, kind of expected to meet, to be honest, kind of a broken victim. But instead I met this little boy who loved magic tricks. I don't know if you remember back then, he loved card tricks.
Yes.
And jumping on trampolines and dirt buggies, and he was just a normal 8-year-old boy. And it was at that time that I started to think, you know, how does someone get through that? How does someone have the strength to get through what he did, but still have a love of himself and a love of life, and this belief that you always had that you were so much more than your scars? And that was kind of where the inspiration for the book came from. But I'll let Marius talk a little about his experience. So maybe just start with kind of how you got burned and how it all started for you.
Yeah, well, so I was born in Romania, and it was really fun there growing as a kid and growing up and playing with all the animals and stuff like that. And I was 8.5 years old, and my parents had just come home from Italy, and but my dad one night, he was super angry and decided to lock the doors and the whole house with me, my mom, and himself in there. And he was so angry that he set the whole house on fire. And I was super scared, you know, and I was able to see the windows, and I crawled over to them and broke 2 windows and jumped out of the house. And I went to the hospital, and a few months go by, and one of my aunts, she tells me that both of my parents, they've both died in the house fire that night. And so it was really scary for me, but I was burned about 75% of my body. Eventually 2 girls from BYU, they came to Romania from abroad to visit orphanages there, and so they heard about my story, about what has happened, so they wanted to help me come to America to get more surgeries. And eventually they were able to find a hospital here, Shriners Hospitals for Children. And
so can you talk a little bit about when you first got burned? A lot of people didn't expect you to live.
I was super small. My legs were really burned really badly, and I've lost my fingers, my nose got burned off. I had toe to hand transplants, and so...
That means his big toe is his finger here.
Yeah, and then so they took my toes from my feet and put them on my hands, and I'm able to do everything. So it was so painful though to be in the hospital, and in Romania they weren't, after a while they stopped giving medication to me because they were afraid I was going to get addicted. So eventually I had to be able to kind of just deal with it and figure out how I can push the pain away and just focus on what I need to do, which is kind of live. And you know, a lot of that being so painful, I see the people around me on how they were trying to help me and how positive they were during my difficult time, and laughing and encouraging me to do more things and to be better. And eventually, once the surgeries kind of started coming along, I started seeing more changes in myself, that I became more comfortable in my own body and who I was. And so I was able to kind of make more fun of myself, and people kind of, not like, you know, bad in a bad way, but it was kind of like, can you pick your nose with your toes, and just small things so people could get a kick out of it. And that way it gave me a chance to share my story to them so they could understand it.
How do you react to that when people are looking at you or treating you differently because of the way you look?
Yeah, so, you know, in the beginning I was scared, and I was kind of hating that. Now since I got older and I like who I am, and I've been able to have so much support helping me with that, I've been able to kind of redirect that. But it's never easy, because you can go everywhere and so many people give you stares, and they have their own idea of what has happened to you and why you are the way you are, and so they don't know the full story. And when you're able to explain that, the whole story, it really gives them a whole different view of them, and they're more understanding, and then after that, you kind of become friends with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the book, so based on Marius' experience in the book, Ava is subject to some ridicule and some bullying and a lot of stares and stuff like that. And some of the people that have read the book have asked me, well, how should we respond to people? What do you think is like the best way? How would you prefer, or would you like people to respond to?
I would honestly, I would love for people to just come up and start talking to me like nothing has happened, and then ask, and then, you know, after we talk for a bit, then eventually kind of introduce the story, like what has happened to you. You know, it looks like you've had a difficult time. You know, were you burned, or, you know, I'm really interested in learning more about it.
One of my favorite scenes that I wrote in the book is where this little girl comes to Ava and does that and just asks her about her scars.
Yeah.
And I made it a little kid because I feel like they're so much more likely to just do that, to just be like, hey, I have a question, or I just.
Yeah.
Do you have that experience with little kids?
Yes, you know, I think kids are probably like my favorite, because they're the ones that they just don't care. Like, they come up to you, they're all excited. At first, like, they're shy, they don't know what has happened, but once you like are able to kind of tell that story, and you know, laugh a little bit about it, like I said, you know, my fingers are burned off, and, you know, being able to have a little kid come up and kind of like, yeah, these are my toes, can you believe they're like, wow, what, no way. That's what I love about kids, that they're just so excited and eager to learn about everything. With adults, that they, you know, it seems like they feel like they've learned everything, and they already have everything they know, so they just kind of look and try not to be mean, because in their way they're thinking they're being mean by, you know, coming up to you and asking. Or
So then they just ignore you, and then that's even worse. Like, then you're isolated.
right, so that's even worse, because then it's like you're just staring at me, and you're pretending I don't exist. You're not wanting to come and talk to me, and so it hurts me for you not to come and talk to me.
So when I was interviewing you for the book, there was a moment where we were talking one day, and I asked you what helped you hang on, and your answer kind of changed my whole book, because it was so profound, and it made me realize what Ava's story needed to be about. So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about kind of what helped you hang on in your dark times.
Yeah. I was super depressed and sad when I looked that I lost my fingers and I was burned everywhere. And then my aunt, later on, she came and told me my parents has passed. And then of course I was scared, I was sad again. Then the girls from BYU, they came to Romania and were able to make me laugh and show me movies and kind of change my perspective and kind of gave me hope again. And so I came to America, and it ended up being great, and I got adopted afterwards, and I was able to go to school, and so that kind of gave me more hope and added more to it every little time. Like, every time you keep on pushing, you think it's over, that's when something else comes, and you see, you know, there's more hope to it. Without all those, again, people, or those little signals that were sent to me, I don't think I would have made it, because it really, again, it gave me hope when right after I was sad. It gave me hope to go for another few months and then longer.
My book originally was kind of more focused on her physical scars, and it was all about that. And when you told me that, I realized that really the journey to find a new normal is about letting love in and giving love, and that's kind of going to determine your life more than your tragedy, which is totally what I think your mindset has always been. Can you tell us a little bit about your surgeries? You mentioned them before, but kind of what,
Yeah.
I know you've had, how many have you had now?
Yeah, in America, I have had about 40 surgeries.
Okay.
Yeah, 40 surgeries, and man, it's been wild. Like, sometimes I had 3 to like 6 surgeries in one session under one anesthesia. But some of the biggest surgeries were my total hand transplants. Each hand, I think it took 3 surgeries, and that was crazy. I'm actually the only person in the world that has 6 toes on their hands, which is kind of neat. And then I had a nose reconstruction.
And your nose is actually your scalp, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. They took a piece of my rib,
Okay.
and they put it on my nose, and then they took the whole skin from my head and brought it down to my face. And then for like, I think it was like for a month, I didn't have any skin, so I had to change my bandage on my head, and my nose was like starting to grow a lot of hair because it's from my head.
Yeah, your surgeries are amazing, what they've been
Yeah.
able to do. And like you have eyebrow implants, right?
Yeah, they took
Eyebrow
it.
implants.
So I have to trim these a lot now because they took it from my head.
Oh,
from
so
my
they
head.
grow.
They grow so long.
Ava has a surgery that was inspired by, well, a lot of Ava is inspired by Marius, but where she has her eyes sewn shut, which to me is the most horrific thing I can think of, to have your eyes sewn shut. And you had a couple times or just once?
I think it was once, and you know, I think that was probably like the scariest time of one of my surgeries because my eyes were shut, and I had surgeries around my mouth too, so my mouth was shut, so the skin could heal. So I had fluids through the straw. But the craziest thing, what I learned from that, was that you really have to trust people then, because you can't see, you can't talk. That's when I realized that everybody's there because they want the best thing for me. They're supporting me, even though I can't see or talk to them. I know that they are there by my side trying to help me.
In the book, Ava kind of tells her story about her burns through kind of flashbacks in a journal, and she journals about the first time that she saw her face, and it was pretty jarring for her to see what she looked like, because she looks very different than she did before the fire, and you did as well. So I just wonder if you could talk about what that was like when you saw what you looked like after the fire.
Yeah, well, the first time I saw myself was probably like a month or so afterwards, and I was eager because I saw my legs were bandaged, my hands were pretty bandaged, so I couldn't see much. Finally, they gave me a mirror to look at it, and I think I looked at myself for a few hours. I just held the mirror. I was sad. I was like, I think like every emotion came to me, and I was just trying to see if I could see if I was still the same person there. I think that was my biggest thing. That's why I looked in it so long, to see if I was still there, the real me, you know. I mean, when I came to America, I've kind of started to really enjoy my scars. I feel more like it's art on my hands or my arms, that like I went through something, and out of it I got this cool art that I can always like remember. And I always, you know, find little different things on my face, but I'm like, oh, that is so cool how everything kind of ended up, how they fixed it, and how I was able to evolve as a person. You know, you actually being able to see like the surgeries and everything, the way everything kind of grows together. And so now I don't know, I really love my scars, to be able to kind of everything means something differently to me, that I be able to see yourself that you're one of a kind and there's nobody else like you. So you have to kind of be there for other people.
I love that. I love when you describe your scars as art, and in the book that's reflected as well. I just think that's a really cool way of looking at it. Like, it tells your story. Like,
Right.
your scars are your story, and that's cool. When people read this book or they hear your story, what is like one of the top things that you hope they get from it?
What I hope a lot of people could get from my story, from Ava's story, is that I can keep going, that there's people by my side. No matter how hard times seem at the moment, keep on pushing, keep on trying. The biggest thing is just to never give up.
And he's got the tattoo to show
Yes,
it.
I got the
Never give up
tattoo.
tattoo. It's perfect for
Yeah.
you. It's perfect.
It's a flexing thing.
Okay, well those are all the questions I have for Marius, and I just want to say I love Marius, and I've loved getting to know him better through doing these interviews and talking to him, and he's just so awesome. And I know he doesn't like to be called an inspiration, but he is. We can't deny it. So if you want to see more about Marius, you can check out my website, and also you can pick up Scars Like Wings October 1st and see about Ava's journey, and you'll see some cool Marius-isms in the book, like she says toes up, that comes from Marius, where he does the toes up. So pick up the book and read more about it.